So, what we just heard was a 15-year-old boy who was about to be sentenced to 35 years for a murder. So, we don't know the whole details of the story. We don't know if one of his friends pulled the trigger. But the important thing is to hear the despair in his, just, you could feel him, even if you see the video, to think about being 15 years old and being sentenced to 35 years. So you have had a similar story. Welcome, Shawn Boyd, to the studio. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, I mean, the show today is centered around what you experienced in your life. So I tried to find some, some clips, some information. What does a boy at that age think to be sentenced to 35 years? Like, and how come we can't reach the youth? Like, I try to talk to the youth. I try to tell them things that, we've all seen it happen a million times. Why is it that they don't rationalize that these things can happen? If you shoot somebody, you go into jail. So why is it so hard?
In answer to your first question, I don't think the young man's mind was developed to really understand what he was, accused of doing.
Okay.
Like you said, we don't know the facts of what he went through. But most of the young men and women that's out there, they're just like following the trend. And then the reality hits them. Like, as you saw at the end, the reality had hit them.
But, okay, so you have other friends that have gone to prison for the same thing. You have other friends who are even murdered. Like, I was watching a video of a rapper today who robbed from somebody, and he's on the phone telling them, get it back in blood, and they killed him. So, like, you don't understand that you're telling somebody, I don't care if I robbed you, come get it back in blood, and they really gonna come for you? Why? Like, what's the disconnect?
I don't think it's no one reason. The culture is definitely different from, say, when me and you was growing up. It's a cultural thing where, the drill music, how they're raised, and a lot of times they really don't think that this is going to happen to them, that they're going to get caught and that they're going to do 25 and 30 years. Sometimes it takes them about 10 to 15 years before that reality hits them, unfortunately.
I mean, they're making it look good in prison right now. You go on social media, they all dressed up, they got phones. They're not trying to deter the people coming behind them from ending up in the same boat. And you work at Rikers Island, correct?
Yes, I work there 2 days out of the week.
Okay, so the culture, do they care about their life? Let's start there. Because we have Carmelo Anthony. It's a new case. A young man went to a track meet. The story is that two twin happen to be white boys that are known to be bullies. Wanted him to get out of the tent where they were. They jumped him, is what he's saying, and other people are saying. And he stabbed one of the twins and he died. So now he's a murderer. I mean, they want his blood. It's now a race situation, but in the situation where you're seeing these boys, even the boy that got killed with the machete in the Bronx.
Okay, Junior.
Junior, right. Even seeing that happen on social media, like, these are things that are not shocking them into reality.
I don't think so. I think, in different circumstances, it may shock them once the reality hits them, but a lot of times it takes time. Once them years start going by, 10, 15 years, sometimes it takes longer. Even with me in my situation, it took time for me to really realize, you may not ever get out of here. But in the beginning, I was, playing sports, playing sports, smoking my weed, lifting weights, as long as I stayed fly, going on visits. That was my way of dealing with the pain.
Okay.
That the reality of, this 25 years, the life sentence that I had. you know, but it took about 10, 15 years before I started realizing, yo, I have to do something to get up out of here, or I'm never getting out.
Right. So I think, like you were saying, because these are young people, they're immature, they're about having fun and thinking about the consequences later. Some people really have to go through hell and back before they can, understand what life is really about. Can you start from the beginning and tell me about the day that your life changed?
The day that my life changed was June 21st, 1989, because that's when an incident happened in Queens, New York, where an emergency response officer was shot. On July 21st, 1989, I was arrested in Manhattan for that crime, which I did not commit. So at that point, my life changed, but I didn't realize it yet. I didn't realize it until I got to that precinct. And went through a few precincts within a 24-hour span, was tortured, beaten, brutally, and understood at that point, that this is serious.
So when they came up to you, they told you that they were arresting you for the murder of...
At the time, I'm sure you're familiar with Touch of Class, OJ, things that was popping in the 80s at that time. So what I would do when I would come from Jersey, I would park my car, and I usually have the OJ drive me around. So we had at that time
that was the Uber of back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a YMCA over there now on the corner of 155th over there. It used to be a garage back then over there. So when I pulled up to get my car, I was in the OJ. They had found my car.
So they was waiting for you.
They was waiting for me. I found out later on. They knew the car was in the garage. So as soon as I came out the garage, I made the right where on the Polo Grounds Colonial is at. I made the right, and they was looking just like me and you. So I didn't even realize they was police. It was women, men, in regular clothes. They just ran up on the car, and I didn't move because they definitely wanted to shoot me. Yeah, somebody took me out the car, another police jumped in my car, and they took me up to the 32nd precinct. And when I got to the 32nd precinct, that's when I realized what this was all about.
Okay. So knowing that you hadn't committed the crime, you didn't shoot the officer, did you think that this was going to be something that would be kind of over soon, like they just had a mistake and it would be over?
Yes. Well, I knew I was wanted for crimes in Jersey that I did commit. I had violated parole. I was on the run from Jersey cases, so I was aware of that, and I thought that's what it was about. Because, in that area, a lot of people from Jersey frequent, especially at that time. You have Rutgers around there. You see people from Jersey all the time. So I was under the impression that maybe somebody saw me. I was already getting word that they was looking for me. And I heard about some things with New York, but when you know you're innocent of a crime,
right.
I'm 22 years old. I'm not taking it serious like that.
Okay.
I'm still a kid myself.
Right.
But by the time I got into the precinct, and I never told them my name, I was using my cousin's name, so they was unsure that it was me, but they kind of knew it was me, and they roughed me up a little bit. Well, I'm gonna say they roughed me up a lot. Yeah. So after a while, I just my name is Shawn Boyd, and they wasted no time since the case occurred in Queens. They was taking me to Queens, but as they took me downstairs in the precinct, they have formed like a soul train line of cops, and that's when So I'm seeing the line there, and as they escort me through the line, they spitting on me, they kicking me, they calling me cop, shooter. That's when I really got scared and realized the magnitude of where this thing was going.
Right. So
Yeah.
from that day until the time you were sentenced to, how many years were you sentenced
Well, I
to?
was sentenced to 25 years to life, but because I never accepted responsibility for it, they kept wanting me to admit to the crime. I ended up serving 30 years.
Okay. So how long did it take between the time you were arrested and the time you got sentenced? And that day when you sat there and they gave you 25 years, were you able to at that time realize or feel like, your life was over right there?
Honestly, no. I was more scared. You're in a new state, in another state. I was more about survival at that point. My mind was conditioned, you gotta survive. No matter what, you gotta survive. And, in prison, ain't nobody care about you with 25 years of life. You got people with 100 of life. People want to know, do you get some money? What kind of shoes you got on? You got some jewelry on, and nobody care about that. So I went into survival mode quickly. And it wasn't like I was in Jersey where I had my homies with me.
Right.
People that I was raised up with, or people I was incarcerated with. I was in New York City, where ain't nobody know nothing about no hack and sack. Nobody knew. So I had to really get mines from the ground up, so that I was in survival mode.
So, this is probably a hard question to answer, and it's probably not one thing, but what are a few of the hardest things about doing that much time in prison? You said you went through stages.
Yeah.
But what are some of the moments that really were pivotal?
Well, I always tell everybody, for the strong, prison is painful. It's not hard. For the strong, prison is painful. It's painful, watching family members pass away. Like in my case, I couldn't go to no funerals. Watching your children grow up or your loved ones go through struggles, and that if you was there, those things wouldn't be the same.
Right.
It's painful watching that. Seeing your mother get old on visits. Seeing people crying when they leave.
And there's nothing you could do.
It's painful. For the weak, it's hard. For the weak, it's hard because this is the penitentiary. We're not taught about mental health. We're not taught about things like that. So either you're weak or you're strong.
Okay. So when we come back, I want to talk about how did your children, were they angry with you? I'm sure when you finally came home, they were happy to see you, but I want to talk about the effects on children when their parents are incarcerated. We'll be back, y'all.